one last journey into the cabinet. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episodes 7 and 8 of Cabinet of Curiosities. And yes, we are doing a double reaction. There's a lot of shows on the channel where I'll do a double reaction like this for the final 2 episodes to just close out the series. Just a little bonus and everything. But you may be surprised because these episodes are normally about an hour long. So we're doing basically movie length reaction today, sort of, and I'll get to that in a second. But the reason for this is because of the timing. So as you know, I already talked about this, but next week we are taking a break. We are going to be taking a break from the channel. There will be no reactions recorded or uploaded next week. Gaming stuff, that's a different story altogether. The gaming channel, because all of that content is pre-recorded and easy to upload, I can set that up on like Sunday and not touch it again for the rest of the week, and it will be fine. So that's still gonna go ahead. And yeah, it's just this channel is gonna be on break. It's just a little spring break, getting into the new season and everything, and refreshing myself so we can be ready to move on with some big stuff that's coming in April. And one of those things is the reason why we're doing 2 episodes today. See, the timing works out to where if we weren't taking a break and had episode 8 next week, it would still lean into the week after, being when One Piece starts back up. If you didn't know, One Piece is going to be starting back up the beginning of April. And it's actually starting with 2 episodes. It's a double episode premiere. And I'm very excited for that, obviously, and I don't want to wait. So, because we're having this break, we would have to wait a week. Unless we, did 2 this week. And I don't want to wait. So, that's what we're doing. That's why we're doing 2 episodes this week, both 7 and 8. And then when we come back from break, we're going straight back into One Piece with the Egghead arc. So, very excited for that. Now, when I said sorta before, in terms of, like, having, like, movie-length reaction, the reason I say that is because I've decided probably the best way to do this at this point is going to be to split them up into 2 parts. So I'm going to record episode 7 and episode 8 like in separate videos, but they're both going to be redirected to link to down in the same description on this video. So you're seeing the same pre-thoughts, the same post-thoughts, but the reactions themselves will be 2 separate videos. It's just to make it a little easier. That way you can watch like one at a time and you don't have to like dedicate yourself to both of them or try to like pause it in the middle and save the specific time and everything. It just makes it easier on you guys for a viewing experience, and it's going to make it easier on me. It's just going to be an easier experience all around. I feel like it's also probably going to make it easier for uploading too, though I haven't had issues with Rumble lately in terms of like upload length. Just to be safe, Though, I mean, I guess if I'm uploading movies to Rumble that are around 2 hours, it's not going to be a big deal. I don't know. It's easier. Deal with it. Plus, that way, if I need to, I could take a bathroom break in between, So there. That's my reason. But no, actually, the reasoning was mostly for you guys. It was mostly so it's like, oh, you guys don't have to worry about like dedicating yourself to the entire thing at once. If you want to watch one episode at a time, this makes it much easier. So I don't know what's going to happen with this being an anthology. I don't know what to expect. And I don't know if like we're going to like really ramp it up for these final couple episodes, or if it's going to like just be kind of on the same level it's been on. I don't know. But I'm also interested to see who's in these next episodes, because we've had a really good cast. Each of these anthology episodes have had some really interesting cast members coming in, and I feel like each one will continue to have some notable names. So we have two more, which means two more notable names. And I'm just excited to see who we get. At least two more notable names. We could have more than one in each episode. But each episode has had someone that I've like actively known. So whether it's knowing them from their voice roles, their live action roles, their like outside of acting stuff in some cases. I can't think of her name right now. In the lotion episode, I don't know why her name is escaping me, but she does music as well. She does comedy music as well. Garfunkel and Oates, that's what it's called. I can remember the name of the act, the comedy music act that she has, but I can't remember her name right now. I don't know what the hell's wrong with my brain. But to be fair, I've also been really tired this morning. Like, well, it's afternoon now that I'm recording this, but like, I was sitting here like after eating lunch, just kind of letting my food settle, watching some stuff, and I just completely dozed off. Like for maybe half an hour, I just completely just dozed off. And I had sleep last night. I had a normal amount of sleep. I have no idea why I'm suddenly very tired. I don't know if it's just the drowsy weather outside or if it's something else, but like, I don't know. All I know is that I just felt like really tired. Not sluggish, specifically tired this morning. So, I don't know. But I did have a mocha latte I was drinking during the when I was recording today's YouTube reaction. And that seems to have helped a little. I have another drink as well. I got some strawberry watermelon carbonated drink. So hopefully that'll help a little bit too. Um, but yeah, we'll see. We will see. I don't think I'm gonna like doze off while reacting. I don't think have I ever done that? Have I ever actually started to doze off a little while I was reacting? So I don't think so. Because when I'm reacting to something, I'm taking a very active role in it. And if I'm dozing off, it's usually like while I'm being very passive, you know? Like if I'm sitting here just like relaxing and watching a video, a let's play, a reaction, it's like, yeah, I'm very passive in that regard. And I'll end up dozing off. But if I'm sitting here like playing a game or reacting to something, the more active role I'm taking in that is allowing me to stay focused enough. Although that won't stop me from yawning, clearly. But yeah, so that should help me, even if I still feel a little tired. Plus, also, if this gets really intense and freaky, it's like that'll help me too. That'll just that I mean, just for nothing else but getting me excited. Is there something wrong with me that I get just excited over creepy, weird, freaky shit? I don't know. But I'm excited to see how these last two episodes go. This series has been fantastic. It's just a really wonderful horror anthology show. Guillermo del Toro did a fantastic job. I would love a second season of this. But we're getting Black Mirror, so that's going to be coming. Um, so a lot more to be excited about coming this year. In the meantime, we're just gonna see what these episodes have in store for us. Like I said, we're just as a reminder, we are doing these episodes in separate videos, but when we come back, the redirect will be a single thing. But I'll have it sorted out on the progress bar under different chapters. Like I'll mention when my thoughts on on episode 7 start and when my thoughts on episode 8 start. Just again to make it easier on y'all. So that being said, let us get this going. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. Okay, and we are back with specifically the episode 7 thoughts. We're doing this kind of like a first impression showdown. So we'll begin with the thoughts for specifically episode 7 with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, except for Hector's actor, I knew every single actor in this, which is wild to me. Because with all these other episodes, it's like, oh, I'll know one or two of the actors in each episode, but not all of them. So that's just wild to me. And again, Charlene Yee, I know mainly for Ruby. Apparently, she was also Chloe Park in We Bare Bears and has done some other small things as well. She was in a couple seasons of House, which I would have seen her in because I've seen all of House. But I don't recognize her from that. I definitely recognize her voice. Like I said in the reaction, after knowing she was Ruby, I could very much hear it from that point on. But again, Eric Andre, I know mostly from memes and short comedy things I've seen online. But I don't think I've actually seen him act in anything before. Steve Agee obviously has done comic book stuff and Sarah Silverman's show. You have Peter Weller, who is RoboCop, who I mistook for Peter Cullen. Still can't believe I did that. No, I got the wrong robot. Yeah, it's just such an interesting cast. And Sophia Boutella's been in quite a few things. I think she was in. Was she in an episode of Black Mirror? I think she was. But it's like, that's so wild that I recognize, all but one. So this episode was pretty wild in a very different way than a lot of these have been. Where a lot of these are it's kind of you're seeing characters get their comeuppance for something. Or it's it goes into kind of this crazy situation. This is very much the entire thing is really for lack of a better way to put it, and there probably are many better ways to put it, but I can't think of anything at the moment. It's psychedelically freaky. You know what I mean? And with this taking place in 79, I think that's kind of the intent. With the drugs, the alcohol, the music, the visuals of the room and everything, and the seating arrangement they're in, it's it's supposed to kind of almost mess with your mind. It's supposed to get you as the viewer, but also the characters. It's supposed to be something that kind of lulls you into this sense of unease. The way the doctor is Peter Weller's doctor here, Lionel, his doctor. The way she acts and everything, the way she carries herself, the way he acts and talks and carries himself, the way he very much is encouraging heavily for Eric Andre's character to smoke and do all these drugs and stuff that he's been trying to keep away from. But then when they're in the room, he's he's telling him there's no smoking in the obelisk room. It's my dude, you are literally the one that got him back into this habit. I do kind of wonder if he was being psychically possessed by this thing while it was in its shell. and even at least maybe not possessed but influenced, and that's why he had been doing everything he did because the smoke was needed to open the shell for some reason. I wonder if that's why. And he was, when he was saying no smoking, he did actually mean it at that point because the damage had already been done. I genuinely wonder if that was like intentional. But in general, I kind of see like this episode to be a allegory for like drug use, but in a way you can kind of compare it to any vice. It feels like an allegory to um obsession with your vices, basically addiction in a way, whether that be through drugs or alcohol or whatever else. Being addicted to your vices like affects you in a way, makes you vulnerable, makes you weak, makes you just, you know, a victim to all of this like heavy shit going on inside your body and in your mind. And yeah, it obviously takes it to an intense level with multiple characters dying from it. Again, with the allegory, and one even being kind of like taken over by it in a way. Only two of the there were like 7 or 8 people there total. Only two of them ended up surviving and getting out. But the alien, the addiction, found its way out as well and found its way into society. And you could kind of like put that on Eric Andre's character in a way, like thinking like, oh, his addiction was brought back, and after this horrifying experience, he's probably going to lean on that a lot, going to probably spread his addiction to others and everything. You could see a lot of connections to this with just the idea of addiction and drug use, especially. Now, obviously, the connections with it sapping electricity and stuff, I don't quite get that, but I think that's just like a cool alien thing to throw in. And I might be completely wrong on like the intent here. They might not have intended for like that allegory to be in it, but I don't necessarily think they would be opposed to the idea because it's like art by nature is meant to be viewed differently by different people. A lot of people don't understand that art is a very subjective experience. And no two people are supposed to get the exact same thing out of it. It can be very similar, but every person who watches a show, listens to music, reads a book, engages in some form of media, everyone going into those are different people. And so they're naturally going to have different experiences, different interests, different things that led them to engage in that. And that includes with addiction too, by the way. And because of that, that's going to affect them in different ways. A piece of music, despite being the same piece of music, will affect different people differently. They'll get different things from it. It'll connect to them in different ways. Same with the same book or the same movie or show. Even this episode. I saw a lot of allegory for like drug and alcohol use and stuff, but someone else might have an entirely different allegory they find in this. Or maybe none at all, but just see it as like just this cool sci-fi horror short film. And that's perfectly valid, no matter what your perspective on this. The actors all did a great job. Like I said, I've never like seen Eric Andre, to my knowledge, like actually acting in anything outside of like the comedic stuff. But like this wasn't a comedic role for him. This is actually a very serious performance, and I thought he did a great job. Charlene Yee did great, playing, giving that kind of nervous, like very cutesy but also very shy energy. Um, Steve Aggie did about as good as Steve Aggie always does, which is a good thing, by the way. I have no complaints about Steve Aggie. Um, I'm just saying, he's like, he does a good job. Maybe I worded it weird. But it's like everyone did good. And it's just like, I'm very curious as to like the idea behind this. I know these are like based off of like short stories and everything, but I wonder like what the thought pattern was when crafting and writing this, both for the original author and for this adaptation. It just seems very unique and interesting compared to other ones. Has a completely different vibe compared to the other episodes. Like, even though it's the second Alien episode now, we've had two Alien episodes, we've had two Demon episodes, and that's fine. I'm fine with them repeating the kind of like motif and everything as long as they do it differently. And man, this was different. This was very different from the Alien, body hopping people and everything. Um, it's just its vibe is so eerie. Like I said, it was like getting creepy and weird, and it's like getting you unsettled right from the start, really. Like kind of the instant they entered the room and everything, it's like all of them having their exact favorite drinks and everything to the exact specifications on that table. It's like that's already kind of creepy. That's already like giving some bad vibes. But then it continues to get more eerie and unsettling, and like again, Peter Cullen's performance, the way he's saying things, the way he's performing, makes him seem very off. And the way he's pushing people, especially Randall, it's like, yeah, there's definitely a lot to think about with this one. Um, but I rather enjoyed it. It definitely kept my attention. So I'm definitely interested to see where we go with the last episode here. I I I hope we end on another really good one. And this is like we've set like a bar for this kind of show for horror anthologies with this series. Like we've set a whole new kind of bar with this show. It's that good. And I really hope it sticks the landing with episode 8. So we're going to get into that. So once again, I'm recording this kind of like I do with the First Impressions Showdown. So I'm recording these afterthoughts right after I finished episode 7. I'm going to go into recording episode 8 now. Link is also in the description below. And then I'll record the episode 8 afterthoughts, and that'll close out the video and everything. You're obviously seeing this segmented in the progress bar and on the timestamps anyway, but still. Yeah, I'm very, very excited to see what they do with this, so let's get into the next one. And we're back with the episode 8 portion of these afterthoughts. And we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Yeah, I cried. I really dig when something horror related can make me cry. Um, because it means it affected me in not necessarily a different way than was intended, because it was definitely intended here. But it's like with like that one segment in VHS 2 that made me cry. It's like it was just unexpected. I didn't really see that coming. And for this to be the final episode of, at least for now, the show, that's kind of a really powerful way to end on. Because like on the base level, it's a ghost story. And it's a very stereotypical ghost story. Even down to the entire murder suicide thing is very stereotypical. Nothing about it is anything spectacular in terms of that. The haunting stuff that they go through, you've seen bigger stuff like that in The Conjuring. It's nothing spectacular, and it's not meant to be, because that's not what this episode is. That's not what it's about. This episode is a it's not even really what I would call horror. It's a message on grief and how to deal with it and how not to deal with it. We have this couple who's going through losing their daughter. I don't believe it ever stated how it happened, but they lost their daughter pretty young, presumably, probably like as a baby. The baby that she saw was probably her daughter. Was probably Ava then. That's what I'm thinking. But they lost their baby, and they had two very different reactions from it. She shut herself off emotionally, completely. Like, threw herself into her work, never cried, never properly talked about it, never properly grieved. Something that is healthy. A lot of people, like, don't want to grieve, but it's a healthy thing to do when you experience loss. Grieving and letting those emotions out allow you to process them. Talking about them allows you to be able to understand them, or even if you can't understand them, talking about them will allow you to at least get through them a little easier. It's a really horrible process that is exceptionally needed. As someone who has lost family members, like, it's hard. And it never gets better. But you can't just ignore it. You have to cry. Like, if you don't let yourself cry, it's like you're going to, like, lead yourself down, like, this kind of path. Like, it said, in the year that this had happened, she had not had proper sleep. She had not been sleeping properly this entire time. For a year. That's insane. And she's acting like everything's fine, but it's clearly not when she's been having sleeping issues because of it. Like, even before coming to this house. Her and her husband clearly love the shit out of each other, but their relationship grows throughout this episode more and more, like, fractured. It never breaks completely. Thankfully, it has a happy ending with that. But we see them grow more and more apart as she refuses to talk to him. Like, I was noticing that the entire reaction. You probably noticed that. You probably noticed that I was noticing that she refused to actually talk to him properly. That she refused to actually explain what was going on with her. And we now know that that was intentional. That she had been, like, holding herself away from him because of her grief. She had been grieving in a way by not properly grieving, by not properly being emotional. And because of that, she's also been hiding herself away from him in other ways. As we see, she's just refusing to talk to him properly, refusing to acknowledge things, refusing to explain things. Meanwhile, he's the complete opposite end. He's super emotional. And he's not handling things well because his emotions are getting the better of him. He's been an emotional wreck in this year because of what happened, but also because she hasn't been. Because she hasn't allowed herself to properly grieve. They haven't gotten to talk about it. They haven't gotten to grieve together. This is something that absolutely affects both of them. And to see that they both handled it in two completely polar opposite ways and both being wrong showcases that there are different ways to mess up in a situation like this. When you're going through grief, if you're too overly emotional for too long, it can cause you to almost not be seen as reliable. But if you're like non-emotional at all, you're seen as almost heartless. You have to have a balance of emotion and, the ability to move on. Because you can't move on unless you have some level of balance to this. Like, you have to be able to grieve, but you also have to be able to press forward. And the problem is both of them were only taking one part of that on themselves. And he, like, understood the entire time what he was doing was wrong. That's why he apologized to her whenever he did something wrong. And by the way, like, Andrew Lincoln's performance, like, when he, like, just blew up there and just let it all out, was phenomenal. Like, probably the single best performance I've seen from him. Just honestly. Like, there was so much emotion and depth to that, to the way he was speaking there. And seeing how coldly she responded, again, she was like ignoring and hiding away from her emotions because she was afraid of confronting them. It's kind of that idea of like, oh, if I confront my emotions, if I cry, it makes it real. If I just hold back and remain cold and just ignore all of those emotions that would otherwise be going through me, then I can just pretend like it didn't really happen and everything. And again, both things are wrong. And so, by seeing these ghosts and everything and helping, in a way, both of them pass on, even though the mother passing on was kind of more just coincidence, the only one she truly helped pass on was the son. Um, hell, if anything, the birds helped the mother pass on. Um, but by actually like stopping and talking to these ghosts and communicating with them rather than just being afraid of them, it caused them to be able to move on and, you know, rest in peace. Because that's the point. She had to learn to stop and talk about things, to actually acknowledge the problems. Like, we see, like, the reasons why this woman, like, went crazy. She just snapped because of her husband leaving her. And she was so extremely mournful about having, like, murdered her own kid that she then killed herself out of grief. And that doesn't make her murdering her kid okay. No, fuck that. But she while being in the wrong, you still kind of understand, like, she mentally snapped. She had a breakdown. Like, she's still responsible for committing a murder on a child, on her child, but still, there's a side of you that does feel for her. It's kind of like what I was saying during the reaction with, like, you can understand where both the husband and wife here, you can understand where where both of them are coming from, but also you acknowledge how poorly they're handling things. It's like they're both kind of in the right and the wrong at the same time. And it's like, I kind of feel the same with the mother. She was very much in the wrong for, murdering her kid. And while I wouldn't say she was in the right, you understood what led to that point, even if you obviously still find it to be terrible and wrong. So it's like, yeah, there's nuance to this. But again, it's still a very stereotypical ghost story kind of situation. Um, the bird watching idea as a way for them to be here and a way for them to, like, just some kind of like hobby for them to have, I guess. Um, I think it was a smart idea because bird watching is something that takes a lot of patience, but also intent. And once again, it requires both. You have to have patience, you have to have steadiness and quietness, but you also have the intent to go out there and make sure you're doing what you're doing, to record the bird calls, to like log their patterns. You have to be actively taking part in it. And again, the patience versus activity aspect of it kind of connects back to the two sides that you have to like blend together to reach that kind of harmony. Like, you can't just be like all work all the time, but you can't just be like all emotion all the time either. It's the same kind of idea. And so I really feel like the duality of all of that is really important to the episode. And I like that it ended happy. I like that it ended with the spirits being able to pass on, with Nancy being able to see that she had been handling things excessively wrong herself. And it ends on her reaching out to him. It ends with the apologies and with her saying, I'm ready to talk about Ava. Finally ready to confront that grief that she had been avoiding for a year. That grief that had kept her in this cold, hardened state that has just been putting this strain on their relationship. She was finally able to let it out and cry, and she's finally able to talk about it. Both sides of that, really, the emotion and the moving on. So yeah, I really liked that. It was powerful. It was emotional. And while I've like not gone through this exact kind of thing, personally, I like I said, I've lost family members. I lost my maternal grandfather. I mean, I also lost my paternal grandfather, but I didn't really know him. I met him like once, maybe twice in my life. But I lost my uncle on my mom's side as well. I lost my great aunt, who I was close with. I feel like I talked about this in a recent video too. I've lost friends, and it's just I've lost people. And I've had to grieve and I've had to cry. But I've also had to continue on. You have to be able to do both. Because if you just grieve and grieve and grieve, it's like you're just going to like depress yourself, like literally depress yourself, and end up being in a state of like just inconsolable pain all the time. And that doesn't help anyone. But if you are just like moving on and not allowing yourself to grieve, you end up becoming an emotionless husk and you close yourself off to others, etc., etc. Neither side of these is good. So you just have to find a balance. And it's like when I've had to deal with this stuff, it's like I've cried and I've cried hard, and I'm open about that. But even though I will never like move on in a way where I'll never like truly like accept it or truly like forget about it, I'm able to continue on with my life, and I'm able to like move forward and be able to have talked about things and have emotionally like handled it. And I still get sad about it sometimes. I still miss them. But I can't let it just I can't let it drown me. I can't let it like keep me from living my life. So yeah, this was well done. And I'm glad that this was the last episode, because ending the season off on something that is so stereotypical and, basic in terms of its, ghost story aspect, but then making it instead like a poignant story about grief and loss and everything. And again, it's like based off a short story, like all of these are, but it was just such a great like idea nonetheless. And that ends it out. I can't say right now like what my favorite episode is, like for 100% certain. I'm going to have to think about it, and I might make a tier list. I might like bring it up on the Discord or something. I don't know. I'll talk about it in the future though, whether it's just on the Discord or if it's through a tier list video or something. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series. I thought it was a fantastic ride. I like how the episodes like would have these different messages, from self-image issues to like comeuppance for people who have done and said and bad things and all, and even like possible like takes on drug use and whatnot, like with episode 7. But yeah, it's like this was a worthwhile series. And like I said, we already know what this is being replaced by, because while we're taking a break next week, the week after is right in time for the return of One Piece. It will be returning with 2 new episodes the same weekend, so we'll be able to just get to 2 right off the bat. A great way to kick things back into the series. And from what I've heard, there will indeed be a new opening. And I am excited for that. I expected as much. Because it's like, you can't just have a 6-month break and then not have a new opening. It's like, that's just kind of a requirement. So, yeah, apparently, from what I've heard, there is confirmed to be a new opening. I have not heard it. I have not heard what it is or who it's by. And I don't plan to. I plan to like avoid that information like the plague, because I want to see the opening like when we react to it. So yeah, very excited for more of this. Hopefully One Piece continues to be like peak anime, and they don't try to like rush through things like I'm really worried they will. I'll talk about that when we get to the actual reactions though. Um but yeah, definitely excited to see what they do. Um, that is going to, yeah, replace this. So in 2 weeks' time, when we come back from the break, we're going to have a shorter show in this slot, but we'll be also back with a double length reaction just because of the 2 episodes in the first go. So yeah. Tell me in the comments below, though, what you thought of both episodes 7 and 8. And for now, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.